Well, first, I would just like to welcome everyone here today for this excellent program. It's an unusual one because we have an unusual person as our guest today, Arne Heissel, who is with us from Germany. And the title of this program is Times Beyond Time. And when you're talking about energy healing, we'll let Arne tell us exactly what that means, but time between worlds is talking about an ability to connect on a non-material, non-physical level. And I'll tell you a little later a fun story about how I saw that in action here at my home. But for now, I just want to say a few things about Arne. He trained as a practitioner here with me and then subsequently as a practitioner trainer, meaning that he can train other practitioners from anywhere in the world to do this work. And he has a fascinating background that ranges from scientist to mystic to healer. He started out with a degree at the prestigious University of Bayreuth in economics and segued into the field of biomedical technology. And from 2001 to 2016, worked with many different companies that are and were and still are leaders really in bringing healthcare to very much the pioneering edge, everything from robotic surgery to cancer medications. And then he started to have some non-ordinary experiences, and we're going to ask him about that. And I would just say, before we really get started on the program, Arne, would you like people to ask questions as they occur to them or to save them till later? How do you want to handle that?
No, I think we can have this pretty interactive, so please ask questions whenever you want to.
All right, wonderful.
Or add comments. It doesn't have to be questions, of course.
Okay, so we welcome you, Arne, with an open heart and an elevated spirit, and really appreciate your being here today to share your wisdom and your kindness and give us some insights really into how healing works, how you became a healer, and how the awakened mind and mind mirror play into your work. I believe you're going to start us out with showing a fascinating session. So I guess you're going to share screens to do that?
No, I wouldn't. It's all verbally.
Okay, all right, great. Tell us about it then.
Yeah. So thanks for having me. It's an enormous honor. And, Judith's presence during the sessions, during the trainings I had with her was transformative for me in many, many ways. So I'm very happy to be here now. The awakened mind training, when we do this, when we're measuring EEGs, is one of the most powerful methodologies, technologies, which I've met in my career for healing. And I want to start with to share an experience from my time when I was a practitioner in training, where I was working with a client. She was a kundalini teacher, and also in her family was a very young child. It wasn't hers, but she was very close to the child. And we were in session 2 or 3, and during this session, she didn't settle down. When we wanted to start the hookup, she was running around, she was changing rooms, she was getting a coffee, she was doing this. Her husband came in 5 times, and we never even couldn't start. I notice this every single time when I'm working now with clients, when something really big is going to happen. So there is a precognition with the people already in their energy field that they are going deep. And it's not easy every time for us to go deep. And at that time, I wasn't probably able, like I'm today, to really provide a field where they feel completely safe, of non-judgmental, of unconditional love. I was still in training. I was nervous with the EEGs. So that was the environment in which we were working. About 45 minutes later, I finally had her being hooked up. And she had very unusual brainwaves from the session compared to the sessions which I had seen before. And it was an incredible gamma, which always was there. Because she was a Kundalini teacher. Kundalini teacher connects to God. And connecting to God, as we all know, goes either through our very high gamma or through the deepest delta. And her access to God was high gamma. This was one of the most extreme gamma I have ever seen in this now 6 years of mirroring brainwaves. This gamma was not supported. This gamma was trained through 4-5 hours daily connection to God in her practice. There was no stable alpha. There was no stable theta. The alpha theta ratio was unstable and a very, very weak. And so this was something which alerted me a little bit when she started to speak about that her child, or the child, this very young child in her family, had to go 3 times to a very prestigious university hospital in California with the baby because there were neurological deficits. They went into the emergency room 3 times and they didn't find anything. So they had to go back with a baby a day later and were extremely worried about seeing that the neurological deficits came back again and again and again. When we looked at these brainwaves and the alpha theta ratio, and she told me that she's carrying the baby at her breast, I knew that she's borrowing lower brainwaves from another person. We know that brainwaves, that our frequencies entrain to other people. And that's what happened there. There was an entrainment from the baby to her brainwaves so that she could function in life, because she wasn't really functional. She knew that. She's an acupuncturist as well. And she had to cancel many of her client sessions before because she couldn't hold the energies of the clients. So she took that baby. The baby gave her the very low brainwaves, but accepted gamma brainwaves. And that brain is not trained for fast, high speed, unstable, not really trained brainwaves. And it had significant neurological deficits. The system, the healthcare system, which I used to work 25 years, and Judith mentioned that, very high level position. With all the technology they have at one of the leading hospitals in the US, was not able to understand what was going on. During that session, we took off the EEG because she was, well, actually, I don't want to miss that. When she looked at her brainwaves, she started immediately to cry. So something within her knew that there's something wrong with that brainwave pattern in a normal daily life. There was this intuitive knowing, which I've seen with other clients thereafter. I had another client who had strong ADHD. It's a very famous person in Canada. And that client looked at his brainwaves and he saw super low amplitudes and completely disorganized brainwave pattern, looked at this and said, that's not me. The medication took away who I am. And that was the motivation to do inner work, to see alternatives than only the medication. So what I really love about the power of measuring is the intelligence we have inside, even when we don't know much about it, what we are seeing. So this were the stories where I say, okay, there's so much into it. If we are able, and I guess we all know it, but seeing it like with this lady, which I mentioned, and with the baby, to entrain our brain waves, our energy field, our frequencies. How powerful is that in a good and in a bad meaning? So now with training this awakened mind, we are showing up in a completely different state for us and for others. And this is what we then did with the lady. During the same session, we took off the EEG. It was too much for her to continue to be measured. She laid down on the table, and I did a simple Reiki energy session, about 20 minutes. Thereafter, I started to do, at this time, I was a trained theta healer, and this was all I knew about healing. So I did some theta healing sessions, or a theta healing session with her. The next day, we measured again her EEG, and she had a much more stable alpha and theta brainwave with incredibly increased amplitudes. It wasn't yet where we wanted her to be, but over the next two, actually three sessions within this training, actually at that time I called Judith and said, Judith, I have a problem. One of my people I'm supposed to run through this project is probably not really available for this. So can I do one less? And she said, yes, of course. And try to do your best with her. I tried, and it worked. She ended up with a pretty significant increase in her awakened mind scores. It was at the end, it was, I think, 84 or 85, coming from 44. And this was all with her internal knowing that something needs to change, and her openness then to change during the transformation meditation, during the animal meditation. And we always added a little bit of Reiki sessions or sessions which were focusing on helping her to stabilize her alpha. And we know from a stable alpha, we're starting into getting a more stable theta, and we're getting into a more stable brainwave pattern. We're getting from this pattern into a trained gamma, which is a healthy gamma, because gamma is such a beautiful brainwave state or brainwave pattern in which we have access, in which we get intuition. But if it's not untrained, it can be really dangerous. And I just wanted to share these experiences with you before I'm also going into my story and then some of the healing parts. But having had this experience, that people, well, actually the proof how strongly our energy field, our biofield is impacting us and others was just eye-opening for me. And I needed it. Today I don't need this anymore. But at this time, I was still coming from science, studied at Princeton, all the stuff which Judith mentioned. My left brain needed to understand it. My right brain was there already, but my left brain didn't allow this to shine. And this is what I love about the technology which we are using here. We're using something which appeals to the left brain. When we're thinking, we are measuring the brain, but we are measuring the state of consciousness.
Yes, that's a fascinating story, Arne. Just out of curiosity, when for some people here may not know this, when you say that she had an untrained gamma, was it just super splayed out, or did she have dominance on one side of the brain or the other?
Okay, so maybe I'm using the wrong term there. Her gamma was amazing. It was stable. It was as we want to see it, really, really very high in the lower gamma amplitude, going lower in amplitude in the high frequencies, and it looked great, stable, hemispheric balance in gamma. When I was referring to untrained, is what I meant, it was not naturally developed, but it was really trained through 4 or 5 hours daily meditations, connecting to God. So pushing it. And rather than going through building a stable alpha, a stable theta, a stable delta, and then from this, let the gamma unfold and become natural. So sorry for the confusion, but that's what I meant with it was a unstable and untrained gamma.
So she was ungrounded. That's why she was borrowing some delta from this child. Did you ever find out whether the child settled down after you got her grounded through Reiki?
Immediately, never happened again. After that session, it never happened again. Even this one single session was enough to build an alpha and theta ratio, which was in a way that the child wasn't as much obviously exposed to this. I don't have any evidence. I don't know how it really exactly works. My hypothesis was, as there was a stable alpha and a stable theta, that's where the child connected to, rather than the only stable brainwave frequency of gamma and super high.
You know, that poor child must have been sizzling in the brain, you know, because what neurofeedback tells us, and I'm sure Paula here can validate this, is that for the most part, babies from age birth and possibly pre-birth to about age 2 are operating in delta, and then from 2 to 7 or 8 in theta, and then they develop some alpha and then get on up to the faster frequencies of beta after probably age 8, when they have to go to school and then develop left brain functioning and the brain has to start running faster. But if you've got a baby exposed to high gamma like that, whether it's balanced or not, that's a lot for a baby. This is a beautiful story of exactly why we want to always make sure that gamma is grounded for the sake of the person and others. Right.
And there was this inherent intelligence of the adult as well, knowing that she couldn't function well with this gamma. So she needed to have a source of lower brainwave. Unfortunately, because this was all unconscious and subconscious, she misused the baby for that. But when we started the discussion about that we need to change that, the person was really scared, because she was scared about losing connection to God, because that's all she wanted to do, being 24/7 connected to God through this gamma. So now to tell her, we have to work on this, is scary. So that was one of the first things which we needed to do, to calm her down in a space where she had trust that the changes which we are going to do are not taking away any from her connection to God.
Yes.
And the only way to get there was helping her to understand how beautiful gamma is, but that it only becomes powerful when it has a foundation below of very stable and strong alpha, theta, delta brainwave.
Yeah.
She needed to integrate that information a while during the session to allow the changes to happen. But once she surrendered to the uncertainty of what's going to come, but trusting the energy field in which she was in, that the outcome will be good, it went like this. Yeah, and we measured it after the session, and so there was now objective proof of what we subjectively could feel.
Beautiful. And that thought transmission is so incredibly real. If I may say, one of the things I really loved about training you was your very beautiful brain waves, is you had a lot of gamma, but you also had a ton of theta and delta. And that's what it means to be super conscious, isn't it? To be able to bring down that non-local connection with God or the field into everyday life. And, you know, if people don't, they themselves will sizzle. You know, they're going to have some kundalini issues as well. And at the end of our training, this is a story I promised a little earlier. We had a wonderful training. There were like 5 people here in the downstairs of my house, and we'd gone through seminars 1 and 2, and it was just a terrific group of people. And we came upstairs to bid each other goodbye, and we're kind of standing around in the foyer. And I was talking to somebody and saying, "There goes that woodpecker again." And this woodpecker we have a wood house, and these guys poke holes like that big in the side of the house. So it's a big deal, and it's a 3-story house. So it costs a lot of money. So I was not feeling very kindly toward the woodpecker. Dat, 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 when he started up, and I went, no, here he goes again. Usually what I do is throw a shoe or bang on the wall or something, but they've gotten accustomed to that. So he was ignoring me. And Arne said, standing to my right, "Do you want me to help?" And I said, "Well, sure." I thought he was going to throw his shoe or something. And instead, he just just standing up, and he closes his eyes. And I'm thinking, okay, so he's going to try to talk to the woodpecker. And I'm kind of thinking, yeah, right. And I'm still a little bit talking to the person on my left. And then after about a half a minute, I look over, and he's still standing there with closed eyes. And the woodpecker is no longer going bam, bam, bam. He's going bam, 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 bam. And I started watching Arne, and he's just standing there. And then I began to feel, you know, some energy around him. And the woodpecker goes bam, 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 bam. And then he's gone. And Arne opens his eyes. I said, "What did you do?" He said, "Well, I just talked to him. He didn't understand that he wasn't supposed to peck on the house, that he should go peck on a tree. And he said that he didn't want to hurt the tree." And Arne had to tell him, "Well, that's what you're supposed to do." And that woodpecker was gone the entire spring, for a year. We didn't see any woodpeckers here for a year. Must have laid down some sort of preventative energy field there. But honestly, that was absolutely amazing. I mean, because he slowed down, he like decelerated so gradually, like he's thinking, oh, the tree? Oh, okay. I'll go to the tree. And you know, this is so incredibly real. We hardly ever think of these kinds of things. And even when we know them intellectually, fail to put them into actual practice. But Arne has had so many extraordinary experiences that luckily for his clients and people like me who have errant woodpeckers, he does put them into action. And I would just love it if you would tell some of your stories. You have a number of extraordinary stories, which I would appreciate your ordering however you please. But I could tell you he had a phenomenal kundalini experience and has done self-healing, and now is working with individuals both online and in person there in Germany, who one after another come to him from everything from ADHD to broken hearts to broken bodies. And it's all just synchronized so beautifully, and ever present in the background was the mind mirror and awakened mind training, which he's applied to himself and to other people. as this is developed for this validation that he is so kindly underlining here for us, that so much for so many people, it's really all about validation and being able to believe what you're seeing or believe what you're hearing about yourself and others. So Arne, why don't you just plunge in there and land wherever you want?
Yeah, we will see what's coming up now. Yeah, first of all, I want to emphasize how strong the successes were when I was using the healing capability, even when this was just at my beginning, and I was very uncertain if this is all real and if I'm a good healer, and my left brain was still there. So I was using techniques and healing rather than just be there. But even with these healing techniques, when people were in the awakened mind meditations and they found a block and they were working with the block, sometimes it was overwhelming and they couldn't really release everything. Um, I think I've never taken psychedelics, but I hear from people who have taken psychedelics that there are sometimes some bad trips, and this, even those were sometimes a bad meditation experience. It wasn't a wonderful experience, but it ended up with something which didn't resolve. And there were tears, there was lack of integration, and I used, at least at this time, the technique to help them to integrate it. And this became a powerful package, because I love when people find their own blocks. This is why I love it when they go into a meditation, they see their blocks, they're getting nervous. And there's another client story showing up, sorry, but one client during the animal meditation, I don't know if everybody knows it, but it's a super sweet meditation where you're becoming an animal, and then you're um, taking on more of the experience of the animal. And we have the choice in the meditation to become an animal, a real animal, or a fantasy animal. And that person became a raccoon. And she said, no, 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 no. I'm not a raccoon. I'm a whale. I'm an eagle. I'm a lion. I'm something really nice and strong. I'm not a garbage, an animal which lives in garbage. No way. And so that was coming back, and she created a whale in her imagination. The raccoon came back. Here I am. Here I am. Didn't go away. Didn't go away. And she was fighting with this, and then she surrendered and went on and had a beautiful brainwave pattern throughout that meditation. It was amazing. And then she was coming back out of the meditation and reported and said, oh, this was great. I was an animal. She didn't say which one. I was an animal, and I had all these learnings and beautiful. And then I said, so what happened when I asked you to become an animal? Because you have these super nice brain waves, and there something big was going on in your brain. She said, let me think. Oh, became a raccoon, and I really didn't want to be it. So her battle, being a raccoon, being not a raccoon, was very visible here in her brainwaves. The reason why I'm mentioning this, she missed something about this learning if we hadn't go back to what was going there. Because she then noticed that and she forgot this during the meditation, when she had this battle, the reason why she could surrender to the raccoon was she saw herself as the raccoon who finds a diamond even in garbage. And she's
Oh,
the person working with people who are really super, super underprivileged, who are being often, unfortunately, told to be garbage or whatever. And she's the person who finds them, who sees them, and who brings them to shine. So those information just by reminding the person there was something going on in your mind would have lost if we wouldn't have had the information from the brain. Going back a little bit now to my story, I love to start it with, and don't get scared, I'm not telling you now 50 years of my story, 52 years of my story, but I'm starting with my birth. So on July 15th, 1970, that's when I got to enter here, to incarnate here. And I was immediately after my birth being separated from my birth mother and given away for adaptation. So I lost immediately after birth my source of nourishment, my source of warmth. And this doesn't happen for everybody, but for me, it started to be a very traumatic event, which I only became aware of about 46 or 47 years later. This event, the fear of abandonment, actually was the source for my successes. I was then adopted about 5 months later, or came into a family which 2 years later adopted me, but I came 5 months later into the family. In this family, I was seen by my new mother as being super fragile and weak. So she imprinted me really with everything she did with me and everything she told me that I'm fragile. Something inside me said, no, not. But there was intuition. There was knowing there's something else. So with having the issues of early trauma, of abandonment, and then being in a family which says you're fragile, I said, oh, I don't seem to have much self-worth unconsciously, subconsciously, and started to prove my value through pleasing others. So I had a wonderful Delta radar looking at what's going on in my environment, who wants what from me. And I did it. So I had the best degree at the university. It was the best of the year when I graduated. I ended up in my graduate studies in Princeton University. I was the first in here and the best there and the fastest there, and wonderful career. But I was never really without stress. Because the motivation for everything I did was fear. Fear of being not good enough, fear of not, actually it was a fear of death. Because if I would have had not a mother anymore, and that was my fear I was given away, I would have starved or whatever, I would have died. This is at least my subconscious belief. So within this motivation of fear, but love, I thrive, but at a very high cost. And the very high cost was a constantly inflamed body with very strong medications. I grew up in a doctor's family, so I got everything to deal with the inflammation, what the medical system can provide. These were drugs which are not on the market right now anymore because they had too serious side effects. And my body was full of them. And the inflammation, the stress was still in my body. And even though I was so successful, my life from the outside looked really, really good. In the inside, it was always stress. I had so many moments where I went into my room, closed the door, was crying, was just with myself, didn't know what was going on. But at the same time, every single time in my life, and I only noticed this in hindsight, when I had more awareness about consciousness, God or the universe or spirit was with me. I had a few really significant challenges in my life. Sometimes in workplaces where I was put in very cold water. And then I was giving talks. And after the talk, I couldn't remember a single word. But these talks were extremely impactful. I wasn't speaking. Spirit was speaking through me. Today I know this. At this time I didn't. But knowing that I was always connected, that I was always protected. I had several issues, health issues, which were extremely serious. Some of them where doctors were not very optimistic about me staying on this planet. And I have doctors' letters saying, we have no explanation for his healing. So when I needed Spirit came through me for healings of all sorts, emotional, mental, physical. So there was the power of being connected in my life without me being conscious of that. That said, still, I continue to be successful. I continue to be stressful. More stress, more stress, more stress. Because even when I was in my last industry position, just being promoted to the next level with an incredible salary increase, with the most impressive praise which you can probably get as an employee, my manager said at the last sentence, and here's your room for improvement.
Wait, say that again. He said what?
Here's the room where you can still improve. So after all the praise, he said, when you're at the next level, this is something I want you to work on to be even better. My whole world collapsed. I panicked inside because it felt again like criticism. I'm not good enough. 46 years old here. And in this environment, about 6 weeks or 8 weeks later, I was in my first actually yoga session, one of my first yoga sessions. It was after a CrossFit class. I was physically very fit at the time. Was laying down in Shavasana. After these 10 minutes, I opened my eyes. I looked at the yoga teacher. I said, wow, yoga is so dangerous. And she said, what do you mean? So, oh, my whole worldview has just changed. I didn't know where these words were coming from. I didn't feel like that my whole world just has changed. Next morning, I was meeting with friends for coffee. I was sitting there and saying, what are they talking about? Did I agree with these things? My previous life? So I really noticed my energy has shifted in a complete new shift of worldview. But the new worldview was not there yet. The old me was gone, completely deconstructed. And then there was a nobody not knowing what is coming. This period from deconstruction to getting new archetypes in my life, defining me now, was about 2 years of suffering, deep suffering, where I was lucky to find, where the universe guided me to find the right people. So in this depth of depression, with suicidal thoughts, I just didn't want to see anybody. I was just in a dark room day and night, just there, not even doing anything. For
And to
many, many
clarify,
days.
this depression, this sense of being lost in space, was because you had some sort of interchange of perspective where you felt out of place and not the same person you'd been, and therefore not able to relate to people the way you had before, to what they were saying, what they were doing, who they were.
Well, nothing which meant something to me was there anymore. And additionally, of course, my energy system has changed. So I was sensing new energies. I was in a world which I did not know. It came very rapid, and it was overwhelming in what is this? Is this scary? I had heart palpitation and all of this, which was not medical induced. It was just the shift in energy, a lower frequency or higher frequency. And I did not know what this is, and the uncertainty about this, and not relating, not being functional after needing to be functional to be alive. As I said, I had this abundant fear. I wasn't functional anymore. So this was, I even don't have the words to really describe what was going on.
It
But
sounds like you're talking about a kundalini arousal and a
yeah,
shift in
well,
ego identification.
this is exactly what was going on, but I had no label for that. I
Ah,
did not know what kundalini is. Yeah, I knew everything about science in economics and healthcare, but this kundalini stuff, if I had heard in my old world about it, I would have said, leave me alone. No, 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 I don't believe in this. Why are you asking for the meaning of life? Just go to work. Yeah. So I had no connection, no aware connection with anything spiritual. And now one of the most spiritual forces, the kundalini, came through me, but I didn't know. I had no label. And this is what I mentioned when I said Spirit God is guiding us. So I was reading actually a book recommended by this yoga teacher, by Dr. Kundalini-stimulated, and she has written a book which is called Romancing Your Shadows. And I was co-reading this with a yoga teacher, and we were exchanging. She was the only person at that time I resonated with. And so we exchanged our reading experiences, and it was beautiful to learn about the shadow and all this stuff which I didn't believe in. And then I was so fascinated by the vibration of the book that I called the author. That's what I'm always doing. When I love a book, the author gets a call or a letter, and she responded. And I said, are you available to help me? She said, well, yeah, I'm actually doing this. And I started to have a few sessions, and it helped slowly, very slowly, to at least calm down a little bit. She asked me to do a meditation. I did not know what meditations are, and so she explained it to me, and there was some breath work into my heart. I was freaking out. I couldn't connect to my heart. It was so hurtful when I tried to connect with that. So there was a complete closed heart. But slowly she helped me to find my inner child. My what? Where's my inner child? What is it? Why do I need an inner child? And I started to connect to it, and I started just to visualize it. I was so slow and just, okay, it's there. And then she taught me how to hold my inner child with love. I couldn't do it with love, but at least with care. And after a while, she asked me, tell me more about what really happened. And then she said, I believe you had a Kundalini awakening. And she herself went through a Kundalini awakening in the Kundalini. And when she gave me that label, that was the first bigger shift. Then there was another author, because now I had a label, and I looked for Kundalini awakening books and crisis. And there was a book by the late Dr. Bonnie Clyde. She had helped about 5,000 or 6,000 people with Kundalini awakenings, which ended up in crisis. There's no other person, I guess, who has in the Western world who has so much experience. So you won't be surprised if I say I called her. I had contact with her, and she said, I'm not available for sessions anymore. And I said, oh no. And so we continued to talk, and she said, where do you live? And she lived in Oregon, and I said, well, I'm Santa Cruz. She said, okay, where exactly? I told her the address. She said, oh, we are less than a mile apart right now, because I'm in my summer house. She said, if you want to come over, come over. So I went on my bike, I'm European, went about 1.6 kilometers there, sat with her for about 2 hours and had a dramatic shift. And okay, I know what's going on. I know what's safe. I know I should stop breath work, and raise my energy levels. And so she gave me some tools to work with. And that was the change from this deconstruction to and nobody into really reconstructing my new ego. And this new ego was now full of kundalini energy, which was stuck. But I learned to let it flow. And the training with Judith the first week, I mean, Judith is a trainer for Awakened Mind, but she's the healer for 24/7 when you're with her. So in this field environment, and Andrea was there too, who was also here and a beautiful healer. So we had a very coherent field in which I could continue to heal. And so then I noticed, wow, there's something new coming, and it's still ongoing. But since about 2 years, 3 years, it's getting really stable. And during this time, I started, okay, I need to get rid of this so broken and sad inner child. Because I'm human. So as a human, I'm whole and complete being a spark of God. So there's no way that I have to suffer. I don't have to. So let's get out of this. And I got really motivated in finding out what the human part is in me and what is the being part in me. If I use the terms as many others at Eckhart Tolle, using the human being as being our physical and our soul connection as the being. So I had very, very good experience about what my human part is, the physical, the dense part. I was an athlete, so I had a lot of awareness of the physical, but not of the being. And when I started to merge this, when I started to allow my left brain to accept the right brain influence, when I connected my heart and brain and other organs and became whole, I noticed that people came into my life who wanted healings. But I wasn't really ready to give healing, because in all these trainings, I noticed how often people start to project their own issues onto you. And there wasn't a healing, it was the opposite. So when people say, well, but you're natural, you should do this, I started very slowly, every single time for free, because I thought I'm not doing a good job. The client feedback was amazing, but it didn't mean much to me. I liked it, but I didn't trust my skills. And this really only changed when I came to Judith, and she put these things on me, and she said, oh, this is a pretty nice score on your awakened mind. And then what I learned is how the awakened mind feels, so that I could more and more often by choice access the awakened mind. And then I learned how to use the awakened mind as a springboard into these areas of consciousness where we are connected with the field, where we can heal, where we have these extraordinary brainwave patterns in which I believe we cannot stay long. These are too high for us in a physical body. So we have to come back out of these ontos to something. And this something, the awakened mind, is a very stable base to always come back to after an out-of-body experience, after remote viewing, after an incredible healing with people who were really needing a lot of energy from myself. So knowing then that I can more or less master to get into a brainwave state where we have experiences, extraordinary experiences, but don't have to stay there, but can come back to something stable. That fascinated me. And from there on, I started to train and being aware of how can I be more often in an awakened mind state. Because I was still pretty much needing to be an achiever. There's a book by Lisa Miller, which is called The Awakened Brain, and she's a Columbia-trained psychologist. It's an amazing book, amazing story, and a lot of intelligence in that book and heart. And she compares, or she makes this distinction between achieving awareness and awakened awareness, awakened mind. And so I was working on myself daily in my meditation to become or to release more the need to be in achieving awareness. That's the external world expectations. That's my conditioned self, but not my purified soul. And I'm still on this path, but I have more and more moments where I'm getting more often in my life into the awakened mind experience. And every single time magic happens there. And every single time when I fall back because I wasn't conscious about where I am right now, pain came into my life, physical pain, mental pain, whatever. So my body, our bodies speak to us in a very clear language when we start to listen and learn how the universe speaks to us. And I believe this is in different ways for everybody. And so this is my own practice, which I then started to learn the language the universe speaks to me, to discern different states of consciousness. And I don't think there's one state of consciousness which we always should be in. We need different states of consciousness in different times in our life. If we have an intellectual problem, I think we need to solve it with our intellect. If we have an emotional problem, we want to solve it with our emotion. So having some opportunities to switch between different brain states or states of consciousness, I think is where we really want to go. And when we worked about on the title here, and I said I want to mention at least the times between worlds, the way how I understand it or understood it, and I love what you added to this, Judith, because that never came to my mind, but it appealed a lot. But in my understanding, it was very rational. It's the change from the material understanding physics of the world, the very limited, we are only material, to a post-material age, where hopefully the material blessings which we got. I mean, we learned so much. We're having the robots which are helping to operate more better. We have medication, and we have all these new inventions and technology. But we're not living in a better world. I mean, we're living in a world of metaprocess. And that cannot be the faith of humanity if we open up for that we are not just material, open up to we are also soul. And then we are whole and complete, and we have a new worldview, and we don't have to compete. And where we don't have to fight. And where I don't have to have the bigger car than my neighbor. Into where we know and feel about the power, and that's where we started here, where we start to feel how impactful our energy field is on others. And if we are starting to load it with love, with compassion, with non-judgment, we attract other people who want to heal in that field. And when they shift, they add new frequencies in this world. And when I noticed this, that this is an opportunity which we have, I was just going deeper as a scientist now in the new science, which I honestly don't understand, but I trust it. And I trust the experiences which I have. So in an applied way, I've seen what the new science is trying to explain. It's behind what's really possible. But I'm now living in beliefs, because I've seen this too often with myself and with my parents, that if we are still, if we are present, and if we live or experience, at least for a moment, what NRY is called the mastery or the qualities of mastery, compassion, equanimity, uh, detachment, love, Judith, help me, service, clarity, I think. Yeah. So these are the qualities of mastery. So if that is our state of frequency, of vibration, then we are limitless. And if we jump from there into our trust that this is all real, we are suddenly having energies, God's energies, source energies coming through us. And this is where I started to say, okay, I'm going to start to accept that I'm a healer. But I needed to see my brainwaves first, Judith, because I needed to see that's real. That when I'm now with my clients, I'm in a state of non-judgment and love. In this state, my client feels finally safe. Most of them have never been safe. Like my own story, I wasn't safe. So in this field of energy of being safe, where everything is unconditional, and they know through my field that I see them as whole and complete, no matter where they are, no matter what they do, no matter what they have done. They're not sick. They have never done something wrong on their soul level. It's always an opportunity for forgiveness and to heal completely. So knowing this through energy allows them now, when I have them in my sessions, and they get calm, they get still, just for a single moment. And Judith trains that too. Our voice entrains, it's an entrainment instrument. So with my voice, I can get them easily in trance states. And in these trance states, they go where they want to go. Some of my clients go into past lives. I'm not directing them there. I'm not saying, oh, today we're doing a past life session. They know where they want to go. Some go into another traumatic event here. Some go into a collective challenge. So they choose where they want to go. And sometimes they get stuck on that journey where they went. And only then I'm allowing my intuition to be shared. And I'm asking them carefully, are you ready that I share what I hear? Because we are circling. When they say yes, I ask them, I want you to feel what I'm saying. I don't want to project. But typically, more and more with more experience, I'm learning if I'm projecting or not, which gives me a lot of confidence that I can now start to discern. But when I wasn't so sure about it, I just said, feel it. If you feel it, it's most likely true. And so then with the intuition, we are going into wonderful states. There was one client very blocked during the session, couldn't get deeper. And I felt an energy, a male energy of a person who died by suicide. And that energy didn't move away. It was so strong. So I asked her if she's ready that I share something which I hear. She said, yes, well, I am. And I said, all I can say, I feel a male energy of a person who's important to you. I didn't know who I was, who was died by suicide. That was her father. So we went then much deeper into the session than we would have without any of that. Because she knew that information. She knew how impactful this is, but she wasn't at the time really ready that she could bring it forward. So it was my discernment when I received that information to feel also with her, is it overwhelming for her if I would tell her? That's why I'm not saying, oh, here's the information for you. And this is why I'm giving enough space where she can, or he, fine, can feel into, am I ready for whatever is coming? And they know. And this is the healing method which I'm now using. It is influenced by so many different parts of education and healings. I have so many formal trainings and this healing and this healing and this healing. But in the end, I always was like, there's something wrong, there's something missing. And I cannot use it. I was a trainer, was a coach and a trainer for that. I did a few trainings. The feedback was amazing. I said, no, there's something missing. I need to continue to search and search. And I'm not saying I'm 100% there. But what I'm seeing right now, providing a field of non-judgment and love frequency, unconditional love frequencies, is everything we need to hear. And sometimes when they are stuck, sending this love frequency to them will make transformative experience, or will expose them to a transformative experience. It's sometimes that simple. But what it does take is their courage to go there. So what we are doing is, I've never pushed somebody into anything. But with my energy field, I'm inviting them to go a little bit deeper if they want to. So we're peeling an onion. For some, they are ready to go there. And these sessions take really 10, 15 minutes, and they are dramatic in change. Another person for the same change may need 10 sessions. And that's only fear of the unknown. That's lack of trust in being whole and complete. So we are going layer by layer by layer. I'm not there with an expectation of an outcome. I'm there to listen to their energy field where they are and to respect that. No matter if I believe if we only would be doing this, we would be so much faster.
So it works at least two different ways. When you sit in non-judgmental love and radiate that, they sit and entrain, and then insights and knowings can come up within them, but they can also come up within you. So it can be either that you help them see something they can't access, or they access something that they haven't been able to access before. Is that it?
Yeah, there's probably always some information available for me, but I'm not sharing it unless I think I really have to.
Mm.
Because I notice that it's more powerful if they really come up with this within themselves. And they do, the more stable my field is with these qualities of unconditional love and non-judgment. So if I'm really, really strong during the sessions, being connected to these frequencies, then these are the most successful sessions.
So
But
do you sit in silence, or do you ask them guiding questions?
so for those, in those moments, I'm just bringing them in a little meditation where they go deep. Yeah, they're in a trance state or wherever they go, but their monkey mind, their busy beta mind is still they're probably having a nice, stable theta and delta or gamma involved, because they do have access to information which comes from the universe. So that's where I hold them, so that they are knowing whatever's coming, whatever information is waiting for them, whatever block wants to show up, they are safe because I'm there with them. So if I'm holding that energy field safe, I have one client, we did a few sessions, and after the third or fourth session, said, I think I'm ready for something really big, and I never mentioned that to you, but I can't sleep. Well, yeah, that's often what I hear. And he said, and when I'm awake, when I'm waking up at night, I'm always drowning and I can't even breathe anymore. I'm really concerned. My wife is so concerned, and it's at a very, very serious level that I stop breathing. And I said, okay, let's see. And I was just providing this field of frequencies of love and compassion and non-judgmental. And it was a Zoom session with a client in the US. And he was sitting there. And then I was not even guiding him in a meditation. I just said, go deep inside you. And then his body started to shake. He fell from the chair. I couldn't see him anymore. And I was just hearing noises of purging. I was continued in the state of non-judgmental trust and unconditional love, because I knew energetically that something really nice is happening. Of course, I got before a message from a pastor where he had to go, because that most sweetest person, probably one of the most sweetest person in this life, wasn't in the past. And he had done something very bad in the past life, and I did not know what it was. But I had a very clear message. He did something really wrong in the past. That was all what happened. I didn't mention this to him. But the frequencies exchanged let him go into his past life. This is where he noticed that he was killing people by putting their head into water until they died.
Oh,
That was what he experienced in past life. If this is true or not, I don't know. But he came after a while back from his carpet, sitting on a chair and saying thank you. And the issue with respect to not being able to sleep and having these dreams, not, and also literally not breathing at night, never came back. So that's the type of healing I really prefer. I have an insight. I know we're going past life. I know something bad is happening, but I'm not super precise. I know there's some healers who know exactly and they can see everything. I don't know. I don't. And maybe because I don't want to, because I love it so much more when they know. I find this more authentic. Yeah. And that's my individual perspective, and I may block myself with saying this is what I want, with maybe even seeing it. But why do I need to see it if they have the opportunity to see it when they are in this field? And with all that said, with this change from our worldviews, hopefully integrating the old world into the new world of knowing that we are more than our human body, I really hope that in these meta crises, we're getting more and more people learning about the invitation to switch from achievement mind into awakened mind, and to understand how relatively easy it is for us to learn the qualities of an awakened mind. Through inner work, yes, but that's just such a gift. And what happens if we would run around with ideally an eyes open, but even an eyes closed, awakened mind? We would all see the world different. We would all acknowledge that we are whole and complete. Yes, we're doing wrong things, but we can see starting through this, and we can see the light of this person and forgive the conditioned person, because we see the whole completeness, and then we can, with the forgiveness, hopefully also liberate that person with all the shame, fear, and guilt. So I think there is such a tremendous opportunity, because we live strongly beyond our capacity. Our human intelligence is not developed as long as we don't know that we are not restricted to our brain intelligence, but that we have access to the intelligence, the limitless intelligence of the universe. And if we don't use this, we continue to start to destroy our species, other species, and that's not necessary. And because it's so easy, relatively easy, if more and more people are attracted or touched by a field, by frequencies of love and unconditional love and non-judgment, then I starting to be extremely hopeful that there is another chance for us and our next generations. And this is where my heart is going on, and I just didn't know about you, Paula, what you're doing. As Judith mentioned this, my new focus is on the pre and perinatal phase and 7 years after birth. And yesterday I read something which really, really was eye-opening for me. I learned that the egg, which actually was then part of my life today, was in my mother's womb already when she was a fetus in her mother's womb with 5 months old. If that's true, it's clear that these vibrations of my grandmother, of my mother, of all of this is inside me. But we can go back, we can repair the stresses of my mother and grandmother. And I'm coming from Germany. We have started in this time period 2 world wars. We've started a Holocaust. And helping to address that backwards, forwards, getting into epigenetics. And when people want to go into collective, a past lives, we can hold that energy for them where this is safe. So this is my new passion right now. This is where my heart goes to work with mothers who plan to have a child, or mothers who are pregnant, or mothers who have a young child, to work with them early on, so that the child comes with less burden, on less conditioning into this world, because the next generation is the generation which has the most impact on humanity and healing. So I believe that knowing now how connected we even are with everything, that the future of humanity is extremely positive. And when I was sidetracked, when I read about all these AI developments, and maybe for a few minutes scared, I shifted and got that information. It's right or wrong, I can't tell yet. That AI, which I read was destroying thousands and thousands of jobs, maybe it gives us time to get still, to go inside and to awaken. If that's true, I don't know. Is it possible?
That's really beautiful, Arne, how you say that that basically, as I understand this all, is that radiating the energies of love can heal people even on the epigenetic level and make for a better future for the human race.
Yeah, definitely. And I wouldn't even restrict it to the epigenetic level.
I think maybe this might be a good time for questions. Anybody else want to ask Arne a question or questions or comment?
I just want to say thank you for just sharing your life experience and story and how this has all unfolded to you. I found it quite inspirational.
Thank you, Mother. And it's ongoing. It never stops.
It's amazing how it's all about frequency, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else? I thought for sure somebody was going to say, how do you get to the point where you can sit in non-judgmental love? That's not that easy. How did he get to the point where he can sit in non-judgmental love? You know, because the ego is always analyzing differences, discerning differences, finding, as on the IQ test, the element which doesn't fit, and oh, that might be the bad element. And, you know, it's not easy to sit in non-judgment. And one thing I was curious about was, how do you feel when you sit there? What's it feel like? Is it an influx of energy? Is it you're sitting in pure joy? Just say something about that.
Yeah, this is great. So I want to make clear that this level of unconditional love and non-judgmental is not yet my daily 24/7. It's in that session. And I don't have to do anything anymore. Because I like what we train in the meditations at the end. Now have your landmark, so you only need to remember the state, this, and you're getting into this. So with practice, I know now how to be in the state, and I can still speak in that state. When I'm sending energy, I'm getting even into a different state. So then I'm sometimes closing my eyes, but not all the time. When sometimes the clients come, and I never believed into this with a stuck energy, a possession. As I said, I didn't believe into it. I had another healer. She works a lot with possessions, and she said, Arne, can you please hold space for me? Because last time when I did a possession session, I got possessed, and I know you can hold space, so can you do this? And I said, well, I don't believe into this, but if I only need to hold space, let's do it. I was holding space. She was working with somebody remote, and that person was in so much pain. I've never heard so much pain. And after the release of the possession, it was gone. I said, wow, does this exist? So I couldn't say it doesn't anymore. And so as the universe works, the next 3 clients wanted a release of a possession. I said, okay, let's try it. This requires so much energy for me then I have to close my eyes and I have to work with this. I have to be able to hold it. This is tougher job to do, I want to say. But coming back to what you asked, I just feel content. I'm just there. It's this, yes, life is going through me right now. So it's not in a super blissful state. So it's just, yeah. And this is obviously enough to be in a state where if next to me a bottle of water would fall on the floor, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't even look at it. If my clients fall off a chair and I don't see them anymore, I don't care because I know they're safe. Yeah. So this is the level of focus. And I have never measured myself during a full session.
Oh, you must. Oh, you must do that.
I should ask a client if that's okay to sit there with some EEGs. But yeah, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, it's a super calm, content state.
It sounds like a Lesh state 6. Nothing matters other than just being, which is an evolved mind, a high amplitude awakened mind, a superconscious gamma synchrony.
Yeah, I guess this is really there because, there's no expectation in outcomes. As soon as I would have expectations in outcome, I'm not there being able to provide a non-judgmental and super loving, unconditional loving state in. Yeah. So my ego, my issues, my wishes are gone for that moment, for that session. Yeah. I'm not doing talk therapy. It's really pure energy.
That actually makes a lot of sense because it's like you've got creating a 0-point field, taking out the disturbing activities of consciousness, which, whether it's the thinking mind, even the sensory mind, it's reaching out, it's trying to do something. The theta, you're trying to resolve something or trying to create something. Even delta, you're reaching out for something, you're seeking, you're searching. So when you kind of collapse all of that striving, then you're probably reaching that state where Siegfried Othmer is taking people at 0.1 hertz delta, where there's nothing going on and the body resets. It just, everything goes back.
I see that in a few of my meditations, which was hooked up. Then when I've been recently in a meditation in the room where I negotiated my contract for this incarnation. That was quite funny because it was really busy. I mean, contract negotiation with me can be tough. And we were discussing, and I said, luckily I was hooked up because after the meditation, I thought, okay, that was a disaster. My brain was going on. It was zero better, very little better, so that I could recognize it. And it was all delta, an incredibly deep delta amplitude, and everything was pretty calm. So yes, I would agree. For me, there's a lot of delta, and I'm receiving information. I was calling lately a client, the whole session, the wrong name, and then she said, "Oh, by the way, my name is," and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She said, "Don't be sorry." The session was about her passed away mother. She said, "My mother always wanted to name me the name that you were using."
Oh, wow.
But they have chosen another name. I said, "Oh my God." So I wasn't using the wrong name. So now every single time when I confuse a name, which I often do, I say, "No, I'm right. You just don't know." Making that up.
Patty Leva, you got your hand up. Would you like to ask a question or a comment?
Well, chiming in early with Arne's mentioning of entrainment, I have been fascinated with watching the beingness that goes on for me when I'm retrieving someone in the afterlife. So what that is mediumship. And I, a week ago, consciously went to find the 3 children of the Covenant School. I had already helped the 2 teachers and the custodian days before that. And oftentimes afterwards, when I'm writing out a narrative, I'm aware of the nature of the connection established between me and the what we call in Monroe Institute terms new goner, or newly passed over person. And this, I recently did a presentation on quantum entanglement, and entanglement to me is also entrainment. And what's happening for me in the last couple of years is the realization that the being of me is connected all the time with everything and everyone. And that's become an existential experience for me. So it becomes easier and easier just to be present and watch the assistance or helping the passed on person through interview and continuing their journey. So the entrainment aspect, that's what I want to bring up, is very powerful because we are already entrained. It has to do with the degree of Arne focus, and the focus degree, the degree of focus determines the degree of connection to me. When I'm listening to someone, I'm beginning to get into a trance because I'm taking on the awareness of that person. And it can be various degrees of sympathy or various degrees of empathy, which is a deeper trance. So we're already doing this in our regular life, but we can experience that at a distance, or so-called distance, with others who are not present physically. And that is just absolutely fun for me, is to actually have that happen. And that also happens during the healing moment. You just remove any expectation and you are in a being place. That is so cool to me. That is just coming alive more and more and more. And Judith, you experienced lifelines recently at the Institute, and you can relate that degree of focus that it takes to become a medium and carry out afterlife communication. Mm-hmm. But we're doing it all the time.
Yeah, and I relate to everything you're saying, but the Lifeline program for me was one of varying levels of control of states of consciousness. Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes it would be images, downloads coming so fast I couldn't catch anything. And then it would be a really strong vision, highly detailed, that would fade. And then another vision, and then a third one, and then I'd have a understanding. I mean, it's just was so varied. And then sometimes I would be right on point with what the program's goals were and what you're talking about, and probably what Arne's talking about, and be submerged in the experience with a kind of degree of focus that helps you not have anything happening, no analysis happening whatsoever. And I think that, I mean, I do see that the awakened mind is the perfect way in for what you do, Patty, with soul retrievals, what Arne does with healing, with anything really. I mean, it is the brainwave pattern of the psychic. And it is a integrated pattern because the level of focus is such that the brain waves are able to integrate and connect with each other. But at the same time, I would say that it's not that easy to do. I mean, for one thing, what Arne's talking about is to be able to sit there and radiate love. I mean, there has to be a whole lot of inner clearing to get to the point where you can feel love and be love. And not that that doesn't happen in the Monroe Institute's Lifeline program, because the heart does play such a huge part in everything. Feeling, caring, as with everything, any kind of therapy success. But at the same time, we're making all of this sound a whole lot easier than it is for the ordinary non-meditating person.
Well, it is and it's not, because it is super easy. There's nothing that you really need to do other than learning how to become still. The learning how to become still is, of course, difficult.
Right.
But access to frequencies, as Patty just mentioned, even of spirit, is easy. Because I know,
point, yeah.
I'm not a medium, and I never wanted to be a medium. But sometimes spirit wants me to share information. And as I'm not a medium, I'm discussing with spirit. You want me to share something. Give me proof that I'm not making you up. And what I said is, give me 2 words which do not make any sense to me. And I will share them with my client who you want to transfer your message to. I want to see a strong emotional outburst. And the first time when I did this, because spirit didn't stop, I said, you're not real. Oh, and came back. And I said, give me these 2 words. And I got red ball. And you need to know, I was an athlete, always connected to balls. And I played with my mother with a little red ball. So there was a moment when I noticed I'm getting out of my non-judgmental, loving state, because I was triggered by this ball and mom playing with a ball. Luckily, I noticed, I discerned it, went back into the other state, said to that client who was older but lost his mother when he was 13 years old. And I said, just sit down, I want to share 2 words with you. Red ball. He looked at me and said, Mom, are you here? I said, oh my God. How do you come up with that? He said, well, every time when I dream about my mom, I see her in a red ball. So I am not allowing now spirit anymore to help me in my sessions. I'm not actively trying to connect with them, but they want to connect. And Patty, forgive me, I'm probably way too simplistic here. But I believe that there's an area of frequencies where we in our human and being awareness can raise our frequencies, where spirit is willing to lower their frequencies at a level where they don't become material, we are not becoming spirit, where we can meet with information exchange. And sometimes I might be in this area where spirit jumps in and say, oh, okay, he's there. Now I want to use him for my message. But that's a very simplistic.
But
Right.
that
But I
makes
need the
beautiful
evidence-based
sense.
approach.
But I
Oh,
love the
yeah.
idea of stillness, you know, because in stillness, then you're open to all frequencies. Yeah. Patty, you have, Paula, you have a question?
So, along with the non-judgment, I would say, like, how do you find that non-judgment with family members? Like what, like I'm working with, I work at a residential treatment facility for addiction disorder. I'm usually working with 16 men. A lot of them are mandated to our facility from jails or prisons. They're coming in with, a lot of obvious pain, a lot of guilt, shame, regret. And when I'm working with them, it's very easy, and I don't say that in a boastful way, but to let go of that judgment and just kind of see them almost like a parent who's watching them take steps. And so it's okay that they fall. You expect them to fall. It's there's no forgiveness needed when that happens. But when you're dealing with people that are close to you, you kind of like, well, you know how to walk. You shouldn't be falling.
Yeah.
For
Paula,
me,
you're
that's
amazing.
that's the difficulty is, when I'm with people that are close to me, I expect them to perform at a higher level.
Yeah. I resonate so much with what you're saying, and I'm struggling there too. What I believe is I'm okay with a non-judgment, but I'm not okay with no expectation. This is very hard for me because with the people I love, I may be more pushy than with the others because I know where they could be, and I'm not having the patience and the non-expectation, and that makes it harder. We sometimes had some successes, but when I work with a family member, they are my teacher as well, very strongly, to learn to really be without expectations, to really be non-judgmental, and to really be in unconditional love. There's way to go. I'm very honest about that.
In other words,
That
they're the
makes sense.
hardest.
They're the hardest.
Well,
Yes.
except for yourself, right?
Of course. No, honestly, no. I don't like to work with myself so much. I get most of this when I really work through guided meditations. This is where I'm using a lot of Femisync meditations, I Awake meditations, other meditations, Judith meditation, inner wise. This is now I go so deep into this. So just Entraining music, I have my own little track, which is Entraining Gamma and solfeggio frequencies. There I get my own healings. There I get my practice to get still. But I cannot work with my inner child, still not work with my inner child very well without the help of meditations guidance.
Thank
It's
you.
nice that you keep going, Arne.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's a long way.
Always working. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not thinking at all I'm there. Neither with my clients. I know there's even more. Definitely not yet with family members or people I'm very close to. Not with myself, but it's about to do. Yeah, I typically think at least every other day I have 2 to 3 hours of own practice, and also during the day I start to be more aware of where I'm falling back. And I'm not switching immediately back to where I want. It still takes sometimes practice and time, but a heightened awareness of when I'm not in the state where I want to be and where I can learn to improve is extremely important. Because otherwise, I had probably last year, years before, way too often a state which I wasn't aware of that it is pulling me, bringing me back. And now, at least, I think that I'm significantly more often have a very good discernment where I am, which puts me into the power to shift into the right direction. But without the awareness, nothing happens.
So Arne, we didn't talk about this, but what do you think about sitting with us for a few minutes and doing your healing thing?
Doing my healing thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You feel like it? It's very late for you, I know.
It started already.
Okay. Okay. Well, I, for one, am just going to sit here and close my eyes and be
Beautiful.
practice this stillness and
I'm happy to
attentiveness.
just invite everybody to follow Buddha's lead and lean back into the knowing that you are more than just your human body. To the knowing that we are connected to a limitless intelligence which is guiding us. To the knowing that we are whole and complete no matter what. And we are whole, allow, and go deeper into the feeling, joy, peace, deep, deep inner peace and calmness. Go into the space where you connect to your higher self. Fill that space with your light. With the light frequencies of love, passion, clarity. Circulate this light throughout your body, deep into every single cell, deep into the quantum of each cell, feeling the vibration of this light throughout your body, deep inside yourselves. You're becoming more light. And you're starting to expand it outside your body, into the room where you're sitting, into the city where you're in. You're sharing your life, your love, your power to heal others and yourself. And that light, the frequencies of that energy into every single place on this planet. And just expanding your light your frequencies, to heal yourself and others. Notice the unity, the oneness of your life with everything and everyone. Feel the frequencies and vibrations of this light inside you. Start to open your heart and expand that light further with the frequencies of unconditional love for yourself and others. Continue to be aware that you are more than your human body. Continue to use that power to heal deep inside you. Deeper and deeper for each quantum of yourselves. Heal yourself and others. With the connection of your heart and mind and brain all over. Now share this love with everybody on this planet. And open up to receive the healings, the love from everybody on the planet at the same time. Notice the vibrations in the body, the opening the heart, the safety, being showered in love for the people you're connected with. Enjoy the power of feeling this without expectations of the other. Whenever you're ready, slowly come back. Don't lose the connection to God, to the universe. Whenever it feels right, what we are. Briefly, gently. Come back. Open the eyes. Move your fingers around the body. Between ankle and thigh. Stay there. It may be a good time to breathe in stillness and harmonies. I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for allowing me here. Be guided by your questions to share. So thank you for having me. It's disappeared.